Hi, guys. Welcome back to a very interesting episode or interesting time because I am back on YouTube again doing the YouTube work for mental wellness and well being. I've taken some time off a little last year. I started the journey and I thought, let me just take a pause just to really understand what are people looking for, And I come back on Valentine's Day because I wanted to be so intentional about the kind of content that we are actually going to be doing in 2026. The content is definitely going to be looking at the different aspects of wellness. And since it's Valentine's Day, I thought it would be lovely for us to talk about love and wellness as medicine for the nervous system. So I think that the kind of content that we're going to be talking about or what we're going to be talking about this year is going to be very impactful for us to really understand, because we've done a lot of work around mental health and well-being or understanding that aspect. There's a lot of content that we've spoken to about femininity. So if you don't catch me on a YouTube, well, I am trying to grow my YouTube channel this year. You will definitely catch me on TikTok, some Instagram. I also do a lot of guest speaking work, where I'm educating and teaching people around, wellness, mental health, well-being. And so I think that starting the year off with the context of love and wellness, I think it is such an impactful time or impactful content rather, because a lot of people are looking to be well. A lot of people are looking to feel good about themselves. And the starting base of that is love, right? For a lot of other people. Sometimes we look for it in a healthy way. Sometimes we don't look for it in a healthy way. And I think this is what I want to really talk about in content for today. That, it's so important for us to understand healthy love versus love that is toxic for us, right? And I think most of the time, because we look for love externally, we look for love from other people first. Sometimes it can really get toxic for us, and we then find ourselves wanting and chasing people because you're looking for love from other people and not necessarily for love from yourself, right? But when you start looking for love in a way that speaks to you, a love that actually is about you and your well-being, and you understand yourself, you understand the things that matter to you, and you start being able to do those things for yourself, love starts taking a different perspective. It shifts. Love starts taking a different turn, and for a long time, we've been talking about self-love, self-care, and all those things, which is very, very good, so that people can just really understand that love is not necessarily an external thing that you look for from someone else, but more of an internal thing that happens when you start loving yourself. And oftentimes people will start projecting the love you give to yourself to you, And I think we've never really understood that, I have to give love and now I'm waiting for the next person to give it back to me because I've given them this love. I've given them the gifts. I've given them, a whole lot of things, the time, in the different love languages that people give, because sometimes you're strong at acts of service. Sometimes you're strong at gifting, Sometimes you're also strong at affirmations. You're giving it to other people because you're expecting it back. Right? I'm telling you, you look lovely, and I'm expecting you to tell it back to me. But sometimes you don't get that from the next person. And that starts making you frustrated. It starts off as frustration, and then it starts building up as anger, because you are expecting the person that you poured love into to give you back the kind of love that you are pouring back. But when you take a pause and you just start asking yourself, what kind of love do I give to myself first? And what kind of love am I expecting from other people? Right? That becomes a different conversation that you start having with yourself, because now you understand what kind of a person you are, and, the love that you give to yourself, the love that you so freely give to others. Sometimes you just need to freely give it back to yourself first, go on a date with yourself. Do the things that matter to you, right? So that when you do have someone else that is in your life, you are then able to see, that this person is loving me in the way that I want them to love me, or this person is actually not loving me the way that I want them to love me, because then that opens up a different conversation. Then you start having a conversation with your partner around, hey, I like X, but I'm always doing X, and sometimes I feel like you're not giving it back to me. What this means is that you are now able to understand yourself a little bit better. But not only that, you are understanding how your nervous system is wired. And I think a lot of people don't take time to understand how their nervous system is wired, right? And it's nervous system wired in all aspects of your life. But when it comes to love, it becomes that much more important, because sometimes women look for, they look for validation, not because validation is not something that you give to yourself, but when you have a partner, women always exude the bonding hormone. They want to bond, they want to be closer with their partner. And most of the time, when you are that kind of a person more than others, because there are women that do have the bonding hormone, that they do release it. However, they also are free in the sense of how they actually love. But some people are a lot more, I won't say clingy, but a lot more needy in terms of wanting to always be with the partner, always doing things with their partner, right? So I think that is very, very important for us to understand how our nervous system is wired in love, because sometimes women and men are actually, wired differently, and their needs in love is very, very different from each other. Women want to bond, men want free time, right? So how do we bring that together? Where you're able to give your partner sufficient time sometimes, and they are also able to give you the sufficient bonding that you actually need. And that is a nervous system understanding of self, right? So a lot of people, most of the time, even I, because, I'm a woman, find, you'll always maybe complain about maybe your partner's not doing X or not doing Y, because the understanding of how you're both wired from a nervous system perspective is something that you both don't understand. So I think a lot of people need to take time in understanding their nervous system in love, their experiences that they've had in love, because they will also determine how they then respond. Because when you are used to certain events happening to you, when you start meeting maybe a healthier love, a love that is more intentional, a love that is more safe, how you respond to it can either mean that you are accepting of it, that means you've done a lot of healing work with your nervous system, or you can actually self-sabotage, And I find that a lot of people that I coach, that I speak to sometimes, they'll say, oh my gosh, we went on one date and I said one thing and then the next thing he was out the door. And it's not necessarily because you said that one thing, but it's the reaction of how you then interacted with that individual when it came to the whole experience that you guys had. So it's very, very important for you to understand how to heal yourself in love so that you are then a lot more healthier. We always say we want to show up as a certain individual, but then when we are actually given the challenge or given the situation that we've always wanted to be in, we then, react subconsciously in a way that sometimes sabotages the things that we really, really want. And that's because your nervous system does not know how to be healthy in love. Your nervous system is still needing to be rewired. Your nervous system wants to be safe, And I find that a lot of people that I coach, I speak to about, wellness in love, they'll always say, I don't understand. And I always say, just put your hand to your heart and just remind yourself that I am loved. And what that means, you don't necessarily have to say, I am loved, because there's people that love you. It's just you understanding that you being here, you are loved just by being here. And also extending that moment to yourself and saying, I am loved. And if you need to put by who, you always need to then go back and say, I am loved by me. you know? And I think that's very, very important because a lot of people want other people to love them. You know, a lot of people want their partners to love them, but they haven't taken the time to reaffirm the fact that they love themselves first. And I think we need to pause on that moment because having to speak to yourself about the fact that you understand that you are loved. And even in the cosmo of life, it might not be external to everybody, but it is you that loves you. And that's very, very important. And that's how you start reshaping and rewiring your nervous system. And it becomes even better if you meet a partner who's receptive or understanding rather of, you know, the fact that maybe you were starved in love at some point and now they need to show up for you in a different way, that becomes even better medicine for the nervous system because the nervous system says, yo, hang on, I've met what I'm looking for. But sometimes what happens is that you become overwhelmed, you become overstimulated in that love, and sometimes you just need to take a little bit of a breather in it because you've never received that which you are getting from this space, right? So I think that it's very, very important that, you know, you also understand that sometimes some people will meet somebody who just, it might not be love bombing, but it might be somebody who just wants to, build a long-term companionship and they want to be constantly available to you. But you will then feel like, oh my gosh, it's a lot, because the stimulation from a nervous system perspective is a lot, even though it's something that you've asked for, even though it's something that you've said, I want to be in love like this. But because you're not used to it, you're used to being loved in a way that starves you. You're being used to being loved in a way where you have to chase somebody. When somebody shows up in that, you repel them or you reject them or you feel like, oh my gosh, this is a lot, So there's different things and there's different attachment styles. We'll get into that later on, with other content as well. But I just wanted to come on here and say, guys, love is a tool of wellness. Love is a beautiful thing, understand yourself and love. Understand what it means for you, love you. Remind yourself that you love you first. So that when you are with somebody as well, you're also understanding of the idea that because you love you first, them loving you is a bonus of the love, an extension of the love. Actually, it is an extension of the love that you already give yourself. So they are actually projecting the love that you give yourself. And how you guys then build on that love by quality time, acts of service, and all the love languages that you guys will build to build something healthy is an extension of what you pour into that love because you're already pouring into yourself. So extend yourself in love, let the person show the extension of you and you show the extension of them. And I'm not saying be toxic when I say show the extension, right? Because, it's very, very important to also look at your partner and look at the person that you are in a relationship with and highlight to them or mirror and show to them some of the things that maybe aren't that good for the love that you guys are building. And then another thing, build a community of love, It's so important because we always talk about the romantic part of love and not necessarily the community of love that you come from. And the community of love also helps you to shape and understand what love then needs to look like for you maybe and your partner sometimes, especially if you have a healthy community of love. And it also helps you in actually rewiring the nervous system because sometimes you might love somebody but they dysregulate you a lot. And when you haven't had the conversation around this is how I feel when I'm with you, this is what happens when I'm with you, and then you find yourself being irritated, not understanding what's going on, shouting and all of that because you guys haven't had the conversation that speaks to, the nervous system meeting each other. And that's what it is. Love is two nervous systems meeting each other and saying, hey, I've got trauma. And the other one saying, hey, I've got PTSD. But we want to come together because there is something that brings us to each other. And because of that, we now need to understand how our nervous systems are wired in order to facilitate this the space that we have, and hopefully most of the time it becomes long-term view in terms of how you guys then connect and are able to do other things together, because now you understand your nervous systems, you understand how the next person is. Are they an avoidant? Are you an anxious attachment? What are you? And I'll get into some of that work so that you guys could just really understand why love is a tool, and why it's so important to feel love and be loved. And even if you're single, like I said, you need to also have a community, because then you are then able to, go to that well of love in the community and bring that back to yourself, and show love in the same manner that you want your community to show love to you. But it's very, very important that you articulate and speak about those things, especially if you have friends. That's why women will always go to a friend's house, and, if they've had a bad day or they're having a moment in their relationship and they go to a friend's house, and after they leave, they feel like, I'm so healed, I'm so loved, because women love being in a community of love. They love showing their emotions and feelings. And maybe I will also have a guy in my content as well, just to also bring us that kind of understanding of what love means to men, how love looks to men versus a woman's view, in this instance. But this is just a holistic understanding of love, being a tool for your nervous system, and how you need to treat yourself with kindness so that you can actually be able to see yourself grow, see yourself, glowing, because Sanka's for no glow. See yourself glow, see yourself falling deeper and deeper, in love with yourself first, so that when you go out there, people can actually reciprocate the love that you give to you. And it's not about the flowers, the cars, and all of that only. It's also about that internal work that you've done with yourself. And then you'll see the world around you in a better place. When your nervous system is healed, when your nervous system feels okay, when your nervous system feels safe, then it's able to see life in a different view and a different perspective. So love is a wellness tool for the nervous system, and it is good medicine if you understand it and you do it right. With that said, guys, I think that this was a very good first part, being back and talking to you guys about the content that I do. I will also share some meditations and things that you can actually ground and do to actually heal your nervous system, because we need to heal even more in 2026. But we have an understanding, and I think that makes me really happy. With the understanding, with a lot of things, and it actually feels different this year. This Valentine's in 2026 feels very different. People understand themselves and they understand a lot of things. So I hope you enjoyed that moment we've just had together, and you guys keep on tuning in, and you follow, like, share, and subscribe. Okay, love and light, guys. Mwah.